Hello everyone, this is Greg with Northern Audio, and today I wanted to talk about a tube amp that has grown on me, that's for sure. We've had it in for about 6 weeks or so, and I always like to spend a little bit of time with an amplifier before I do a video. I just ultimately gain a good opinion across a wide range of speakers. And this guy here, the FEZZ Luna EVO, this is part of their new series. It's an EL34 amp driven by 312AX7 tube amps. And a couple unique things about this. So one, if you notice, they're using toroidal transformers. So a couple of things about the company. They're owned by a company named Toroide, and they have a long storied history of developing transformers. They use all of their in-house transformers in their integrated amplifiers. But you may also know FEZZ Audio. They're a Polish company that did a couple different DACs with Lampizator. You may have seen the DAC that they did in conjunction with FEZZ Audio, but Lampizator is the DAC that has the tubes that are sticking out of the top of it. The one that specifically has the 300Bs, I can't remember the name of it, but a lot of people highly regarded DAC will consider that to be the best DAC that I ever heard. So that's who this company is. So back to this amplifier, a couple different things. It's using 4 EL34 tubes in it, and you can put this into ultralinear mode, and they are running in opposite phase of each other in that topology, and you get 40 watts. That's pretty impressive for EL34s. It has a lot of drive to it, but you can also switch to triode mode, and in that case, you actually can get 20 watts, but get more of a tubey, what you're expecting in the tube sound. So also of note on this, the 12 AX7s, you can tube roll on this, and it responds very, very well. So we didn't want to put on the video anything Telefunken tubes or anything of that nature to kind of, give off the impression that's what you get with this. But I can tell you, if you are into tube rolling, it definitely responds well. You can change the sound characteristic of it, get something that's a little more akin to what you are listening to, if it's jazz or something to that effect. So good tube for that. But I want to talk a little bit more in depth about the transformers, why that's important. And I've heard this in comparison with other EL34 amplifiers, in the last month or so testing this out. And it would be this. So using toroidal transformers, you definitely have a flatter frequency response, and especially across the audible range, the 20 to 20,000 hertz. So let me try to equate that for what I think I'm hearing. Now, hey, look, I could be wrong. It's an opinion. That's what the comment section's for, but I think I'm on to something here. So a lot of amplifiers, you'll see that they're plus or minus 3 dB across the audible range. And this guy here is about a half dB across the audible range. So how you hear that sonically is you definitely have a stronger bass presentation. It's definitely much more drivable, more palpable, and you really hear that come across on like speakers like the La Scalas, where if you have a weaker bass in the bottom end of the amplifier, you definitely can tell on La Scalas. It goes from the difference of needing a subwoofer to not needing a subwoofer. So if you're in that category of speaker, this is definitely an amp to consider. But the frequency response thing, back to that. So a lot of amps will show plus or minus 3 dB. And if you look at how they measure as far as sound and amplification logarithmically, plus 3 dB. When you double the wattage, you get plus 3 dB. So plus 3 dB is an audible increase in the volume. So let's take that and apply it to the frequency response. If you had an amplifier that had plus 3 dB across the range, let's say that bump was in the mid-range. Well, to me, that goes from an amplifier being linear to an amplifier having a sonic character to it. Maybe that amplifier rolls off on the top end. Maybe it has a little more of a mid-range presence to it. When you're using toroidal transformers and you have a much flatter frequency response, usually you're using L-core, that'll affect the bass and you'll get a much lighter bass. You don't have that effect on this, and you still maintain that tubiness. So I think what it really equates to is you hear more of the tubes you're using more than the topology or the transformer in this type setup. All told, this amp, all in, is $3,500 too. So that's unfortunately becoming harder and harder to find in this high-end world of tube amps, something that's affordable that sounds good. So to wrap it all up, I would definitely tell you, come and hear this guy. I think you'll be very impressed with how it sounds. And we have it on display. We can hook it up against multiple speakers. So come see us, 3003 Babcock Boulevard. And thanks again for listening to the music.